Ladies and gents, we are very close to the first beta weekend for Marvel's Avengers, just a couple more days up until then, but we do have some really awesome early on impressions that I do want to cover in this video. Now, if you did pre-order the game on the PlayStation 4, you're in basically, and you will be able to experience the game in just 2 more days. If not, don't worry, I got you covered. We have quite a lot of beta invite codes that I'm going to give away on this channel, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But I do want to cover the fact that the early impressions for the game look really promising. There is a ton of really fun gameplay in it, and there are some concerns as well that I will also address in this video. So let's jump right into it with everything you need to know, and as always, a thumbs up on this video would be super appreciated. Anyway, there are a ton of articles out there that kind of go over most of the things that you can experience in the beta. As I've said, some reviewers got access to the beta about 2 days in advance, so don't worry, you're going to experience the same thing this very Friday. But in the meantime, I do want to talk about a few things. First of all, what you can expect from the beta. There is quite a bit of content in it, as I've said in the previous video, with a few hiccups that I will explain later on in this video. So you will have access to those 4 heroes that were advertised, like Iron Man, Kamala Khan, Black Widow, and Hulk, with the exception of the first story mission, the one with the bridge that later on collapses. That is when you actually get to experience all 6 of them, including also Captain America and Thor. But for the rest of the beta, you only get access to the other 4 that I was talking about. Once you are finished with the bridge mission, there are another 2 story missions that you can complete. It's the one with the jungle area that we also saw in the most recent word table event, and there's a third one that introduces you to the multiplayer for the very first time. Once you're done with that, the word table is now accessible. You can go in, open it up, and you will see that there's a variety of other missions, including other multiplayer missions that you can take part in and just queue up for the matchmaking and play with other people or with AI bots if you want to do that. Nonetheless, there's others in there. We also know about the harm missions, the war zones, the drop zones, but I'm gonna leave it at that for now so that I don't really spoil anything. But the max level is going to be 15. I think that even the power level on the gear, the maximum you can find in the beta, is going to be 40 or 45. You can basically get anything up to purple quality, so this is going to be the epic quality gear, but I did heard rumors that there were people who actually managed to get legendary drops as well. So I'm really curious what the drop chance for that is going to be at these lower levels. Nonetheless, the gameplay so far seems to be praised quite a bit. It does feel very fun, and the characters and their attacks especially do feel satisfying, and there's also some really nice team combos that you can pull off. So they feel sufficiently distinct from one another to make you feel like you're playing the hero of your choice, and you can customize them and even select a whole bunch of skills from their various skill pages, but not too much so that you have to completely relearn the game every single time you pick up a new character. This mostly boils down to the fact that there are common controls for similar actions within these characters. So for example, at first, all of the characters will have a light, heavy, and ranged attack. They will also have a dodge and a parry, as well as an ultimate ability and other abilities in there as well that kind of control similar with the same button. Like for example, if you were to aim and shoot, you would do that with R2 and L2 on the controller, and it would be the same for the other characters too. But this is where it kind of stops, and from that point on, everything kind of diverges. Like there's obviously a ton of skills to invest into, a ton of skill trees, by the way, with all of those 3 pages, of which we only have access to 1, by the way, and even in the beta we won't be able to unlock everything since there are way too many of them. But I will assume that you can create a ton of very diverse builds that can only become better once the full game releases. One thing that I do want to talk about, especially for some of you guys that have been with me since Anthem days, there are a few things that the game borrows from Anthem, though in a good way, and this is according to one of the recent Forbes articles, basically in terms of Iron Man and how the flight feels when you control him. And it basically feels exactly how it is in Anthem, with the exception that the fuel gauge doesn't deplete, as you don't have one to begin with. So you can go in, you don't have to worry about that, you can fly for as long as possible, and it's basically a Anthem that feels much better. I just wanted to mention that because I know that there's still some of you that are looking forward to that 2.0 revamp. Otherwise, I do want to talk about some of the attention to detail, as this is a Marvel game. There should be a ton of it in there, and some of the biggest praises I've seen being done towards the animations. Like, there's many animations and attacks that you will actually recognize from various Marvel movies, and even some of those combo attacks that you will see oftentimes, you will see similarities to something that you can expect from a Marvel movie, and it looks very interesting. And this doesn't even begin to include the voice acting that obviously is going to be top notch, since there are some of the best voice actors for each and every single one, at least for the beginning characters. Now, gear is what I also want to talk and cover in this video. Obviously, I've already mentioned that there are several rarities already accessible in the game, up to level 15 and up to epic, but there is a chance for legendary to also be in there. So gear comes in a lot of choices for a lot of characters. Like, usually you have the stuff that provides you stats and whatnot, but there's also additional ones that might improve various other abilities, which is why it also gets compared to games like Destiny quite a lot. Like, it seems that the loot in this game is quite similar to the one in Destiny, so you can expect that it's going to provide a mix of both stats, like for example melee or range damage boost, but also additional elemental damage and even cooldown reduction for various abilities. The only problem with it, from what I'm able to tell, is the fact that none of the loot, none of the gear in the game influences the way your character looks like in any way whatsoever. This is obviously a design choice, this has been announced from the very beginning, but I can see quite a lot of players being kind of put off by this. And let me explain why that would be the case. You're going in, you're taking down a very challenging enemy or a challenging encounter, you're getting a really nice belt, you can even see it physically in various cutscenes, but that doesn't appear on your character physically. Unfortunately, that could cause for some players to feel a sort of disconnect between the work they put in and the rewards they're getting. Rest assured though that there are a ton of cosmetics in the game that kinda make up for that. There's a ton of really awesome suits in the game that you can collect. Some of them you get them through various activities by just playing it, while others are obviously going to be in the cosmetic shop. I'm gonna talk about that in a later video, but I will say about the fact that you're going to have access to 4 gear slots and 3 artifact slots in, of course, the beta, with the appearance one being a separate one that affects your character as a whole. Overall, I'm seeing some really positive first impressions. This really gets my hopes really high, but this also brings us to those concerns that many of the reviewers have also raised, and a few of them that I will also raise for myself. One of the first things that I've noticed is the teammates' AI is pretty dumb. I mean, they can do one thing and they do it good, which is combat. They do deal some damage, but for anything else they are pretty dumb, in the sense that they don't recognize any of the more complex objectives. Like, for example, if you want to complete a puzzle that might require 2 or more people, they aren't going to be able to do any of that. Also, you cannot issue commands, so if there's a zone you have to break through that only Hulk can, you cannot issue a command so he breaks that down unless you control the character itself. And you can't do that because you can only switch between these between missions, so that's going to cause an issue for quite a number of people. Loot again could be a point of concern. As I've said, if you like loot to change your appearance, you're probably not going to enjoy this game too much, since it was by design that the loot physically doesn't appear on the character. Even like the small gadgets don't appear physically on the character, like how it was in Anthem, for example, which would have been a nice touch while still keeping the character looks from the appearance changes. Furthermore, another big concern was the fact that the game, past its first few story missions, feels quite repetitive, especially for the side content. Now, this might just be the way that the beta works, because there's a limited selection of missions that you have in the beta, so it might just be that, but there isn't much variety between these. You're kind of always going and doing the same kind of things. You're always fighting within the same similar types of rooms and corridors, fighting similar types of enemies. On the same note, the puzzles also feel quite boring, since there's only like a couple of selections in the beta, so hopefully this is going to open up with bigger variations once the game releases. And again, maybe this is just because of the limited number of things you can experience in the beta, but I did hear that the fact that we are able to play with different characters kind of freshens that up a bit, and you won't feel like you're repeating the same thing over and over again, since you're going in with a different character with a different build that kind of performs different actions. Anyway, this this is it for now with the brand new information. Now, as I've promised, I'm also going to organize a beta code giveaway for this Friday. As I've said, you have to be on the PlayStation 4, you have to own it since these codes only work for the PlayStation 4. If you want to take a part in the giveaway, all you have to do is to be subscribed to my channel, leave a like on this video, and comment down below that you're interested in the beta code. As always, thank you so much for watching, and peace.